abundance of energy, peace, and hearts always filled with love. Anger can be a defensive reaction, a natural instinct in humans. It may be present in our genetic makeup, in our DNA. If previous generations, like grandparents and parents, were often angry or hot-tempered, we're likely to inherit that legacy. And based on the environment we grow up in, we can categorize people who frequently get angry. The first group, I think, are those who are powerful and successful. Their egos are very large, and they find it difficult to accept the weaknesses or shortcomings of others. They also lack the patience to listen to an explanation or understand a situation clearly. Therefore, they often express their dissatisfaction very strongly through anger. Because we're recognized, respected, and admired by many, we have a firm belief that everyone should listen to us. Suddenly, someone doesn't listen or doesn't show enough respect, and we react. The second group consists of people who are busy. Busy people also tend to get angry because they're too preoccupied, focusing outwardly on solving work issues, striving for success, and building a career. Therefore, they forget or don't have time to take care of themselves. Because they don't have time to take care of themselves, they don't know what's happening in their souls in recent times. The garbage, annoyances, pressures, and worries, doubts, and fears are accumulating in their minds without us realizing it. Or we have noticed, but don't have enough time to stop and address them. Therefore, those who are busy are often hasty, hurried, quick-tempered, and react quickly. So they don't have enough patience to listen and fully understand a situation. They are also a group of people who are easily angered. The third group, I think, consists of people with psychological wounds, especially those suffering from depression. When our psychology drops to a very low level due to some event or some error in thinking that gets stuck down there and can't return to its normal state, it now views everything around it with fearful eyes. An easily recognizable reaction is that they often withdraw and are hesitant to interact, especially when approaching strangers or those with strong energy. This group reacts very fiercely. They see an event and their minds magnify it 100,000 times. For example, it might just be a simple suggestion, but when their souls are wounded, they interpret it as an attack, a destruction. Therefore, their reaction is double or many times greater than that of a normal person. So, this shows that anger is present in each of us. It's present in our instincts. But perhaps we haven't studied what's called soul studies, which is the study of the life of the soul. And we haven't gone through an environmental practice how to subdue the negative energies in our souls. So, we live and coexist with many negative energies, including anger, and we even think of anger as a weapon necessary for self-defense or to overwhelm or intimidate the opponent. However, as you all acknowledged at the beginning, when we're angry, we suffer greatly. There's no happiness in it at all. In other words, a person who is unhappy is the one who gets angry. A person who is smiling, relaxed, comfortable, and kind will find it difficult to get angry when something unpleasant happens. In short, anger belongs to us, and it belongs to our state of mind at that moment. We thank you, Master, and regardless of which group they belong to, whether they belong to the group of people with power, busy people, or injured people, the rate at which the way anger arises in people differs, but ultimately the anger will come to anyone. So when anger arises, each person chooses a different behavior. Some try to suppress and keep it inside, not letting it explode outwards. Others choose to release it anywhere on anyone they meet when they're angry. So S, which is better, which helps people to quickly quell their anger, holding it in or letting it out. S10, I think the basic understanding is that anger is ours, not something someone else puts into us. But sometimes we still think that way, so we get vindictive, retaliate, and respond in the same way that person treated us. They might say something unpleasant, do something unpleasant, or behave in an unpleasant way. But remember, that's just a trigger. It activates what's already inside, a ball of anger waiting to erupt. Where does that anger really come from? That anger is just a seed. In the structure of each person's mind and body, there's a seed ready to react to unpleasant things. But we nurture it every day with small annoyances and minor dissatisfactions around us. We don't learn to accept them, but instead we learn to react. We train ourselves to react to anything we don't like. But some things we don't like are actually right, but we don't consider that. We only see that at this moment I don't like it. At this moment I don't accept it. At this moment I see it as wrong, so I react. But remember, at another time, when your energy is stable, when you're happy and joyful, when you're successful, honored, winning awards, generally happy, you don't react to the same words or actions, or react only a little, feeling slightly annoyed, but acceptance is there. Do you see that? The same person you live with is very annoying today. You feel miserable because of them, but before it was the same person with the same personality, behavior and way of speaking, but you accepted it because your mind fluctuates. Sometimes your energy is full, sometimes it's depleted. Usually, energy is higher in the morning than at noon or in the afternoon. So, if the boss yells in the morning, you can smile. But if the boss yells in the afternoon, you start grinding your teeth because you're tired from working all day. So much work, so much pressure. Where's the energy to maintain composure? Because you can't keep your composure. Because you can't maintain inner peace. Sometimes you can accept unpleasant things, and sometimes you can't. So it's clear that anger comes from within us, not from outside. The other person just triggers what's already there. If they said the same thing or did the same thing at another time, you would accept it. Or if they acted and spoke that way, someone else and that person accepted it, it means it's not the words or actions themselves, but our poor ability to control anger, our lack of self-control. So when you're angry, the first basic understanding you must have is that anger is mine. It has returned, and I'm responsible for taking care of it. Because I know that if I let anger explode, it will overwhelm me, I'll say, and do stupid things. And it will burn up all the positive energy within me, and it can cause breakdowns or damage all relationships around me. So I have a responsibility to turn back and take care of my anger first. It's like if someone sets your house on fire and you have many no valuable possessions inside. Are you going to chase after that person to get even, to slap them, or chain them up to punish them? Or are you going to put out the fire first? The other person can be dealt with later. If we realize that anger is dangerous, that anger is like, it has to come from within, not from external sources. Don't try to solve it from the outside. You need to address the internal issues first. There's a story about this woman, Rabia, from the Shia Sufi branch of Islam, was doing something one afternoon. Around dusk, she was searching for something on the road when a group of people gathered around her. They asked, "Madam, it's getting dark. What are you looking for?" Rabia replied, "I'm looking for a needle." The group responded, "It's dark, the road is so wide, and the needle is so tiny. How will you ever find it like that? Try to remember where you dropped it. If you can remember where you dropped it, we'll help you look." Rabia waved her hand and said, "Don't bother asking. It sounds strange, but the truth is, I dropped my needle inside the tent." One of them said, "I don't think you're quite right, because if the needle's in the tent, why are you looking for it out here?" Rabia replied, "Well, I'm using logic. I'm going where there's light to look. If I find it, great. How can I find it in the dark tent?" The group shook their heads and started to leave. Rabia called out, "What about you all? Where did you lose your peace of mind that you're looking for it outside, or doing things that make you uneasy?" Those people began to realize that their unease comes from within, from how we react to others, from when we expect others to always do what we want. That desire, that reaction, it originates from within. It's what makes us uneasy, not what others do to us. So, to regain peace, you need to look inward and adjust your mind. At the very least, bring your consciousness back to a balanced state. If you can do that, you might not want to retaliate or react to the other person, and you'll be able to accept their weaknesses, clumsiness, or mistakes more easily. So, when we retaliate, bursting out to feel better and lighter, to vent our anger, it's only temporary, right? The anger always comes back. Even after finishing a meal, it returns. Some people get angry and eat everything in the fridge to try and relieve their anger. Some drive around aimlessly. Some go online. Some listen to music. Some do all sorts of things to find a feeling of comfort, to mask the extremely uncomfortable feeling inside. That method can work, but it's only a temporary fix and doesn't address the root cause. The other way is to swallow the anger, but sometimes you just can't. For example, if the unpleasantness caused by someone is again, and your heart's capacity is also only one gan, how can you swallow it? It just becomes more and more painful and uncomfortable, even if you try not to say or do anything. If your heart's capacity remains the same, and your perception doesn't change, your mind remains the same, full of fatigue, stress, and frustration, then the more you swallow, the more it destroys you from the inside. So that's not the answer. Of course, in today's talk, I'll share how we can best control our anger. But venting it through retaliation isn't the answer, and swallowing it without expanding your heart's capacity also won't work. I'm just letting you know beforehand that we need to look inward to refresh our souls and bring ourselves back to the best possible state. Only then can we hope to embrace that anger. That's great, isn't it? Can we have a round of applause? After that very specific and detailed sharing from the monk, I have many questions for him to share, but it also reminded me of 4 very lovely poems from his book, Understanding the Heart. A pinch of salt is nothing to the ocean. A river's mistake is small to a vast heart. These 4 lines have taught me so much. As the monk mentioned earlier, with the same person, same attitude, same behavior as before, but when you're in love, when you like someone, when you accept things, it's all fine. But when something happens, then it's the moon, not the stars anymore. So how does each individual's anger relate to acceptance, or the threshold of human acceptance? Master. In this era where we have to focus so much on economic development, it's also the time when we neglect ourselves the most. We don't have time to exercise, have breakfast with family, or have deep, heartfelt conversations, to listen to the suffering and pain of our loved ones. We have so many appointments with ourselves that we miss, failing to improve our personal lives. We've noticed recently that we're often irritable, annoyed, or reacting without reason, and we still don't have a practical program to thoroughly change those negative energies. Therefore, we often live in a state of being ready to snap, always tense. If you touch your face and it's tense, that means you're annoyed, irritated, and uncomfortable. But if you touch it and your face is soft and relaxed, you're comfortable, and especially you're present in the moment. One of the biggest tragedies of humanity in today's society is not being able to enjoy the present moment. Perhaps we'll discuss this topic in more depth in our next conversation, but basically we don't enjoy life. We're always worried about what's about to happen and what has already happened, instead of enjoying what we have in the present. Because we're afraid. We're afraid that if we enjoy what we have, what's present in the moment, those conditions for happiness will fall behind, we'll have to stop, and others will pass us by, we'll miss many opportunities. And because we believe that if we have many opportunities to seize, we'll be happy, so we've become indifferent. Living very indifferently towards the relationships around us and towards ourselves. Meaning our self-care skills are problematic. Therefore, for a long time now, we've been living with a very tense face, very cold, very uncomfortable, very frustrated. And we think we need to be like that to be strong enough to navigate this life, to win in the marketplace, to seize rights from others. And then what? And then, when something unpleasant happens, anger erupts immediately. That is, the conditions for anger are already present within you, waiting. It only takes a trigger, even a small one, to make you angry as usual, and at that moment, the capacity of your heart is very small. So, a single unkind word or action is unbearable. When your energy is constantly low, the capacity of your heart shrinks. Your endurance becomes poor. Conversely, when your energy is full, you're enjoying the conditions for happiness you have. You're very joyful, very happy, very alert. Then it's very difficult for anger to arise. And accepting a difficult person, a difficult situation, or an unpleasant event is easy. In the Aranakaya Sutra, the Buddha gives a very impressive image. Someone takes a pinch of salt and throws it into your bowl of water. That bowl of water becomes very salty and undrinkable. But if that person throws that pinch of salt into a river, even if they throw dozens of pinches, the river water is still drinkable as usual, isn't it? The river water is fine, not because it doesn't have salt, but because the amount of water is so vast that a pinch of salt is insignificant. When your heart is a river, no matter how many attacks there are, they won't affect you. You accept everything, you embrace everything. When is your heart a river? That's when you're returning to yourself. You're enjoying your life. You're cherishing the conditions for your happiness. When is your heart a bowl of water? That's when you're pressured by work. You're consumed by work. You're drained of energy from work and from emotional connections. If you're not present with yourself and your surroundings, your heart will feel tiny. So, earlier, Min, read 4 lines of poetry from a chapter in the book, Understanding My Heart, which illustrates through the example of the Buddha that a pinch of salt isn't salty to the entire river. A small mistake compared to an immense heart. Venerable, you said that anger is mine and exists in seed form, meaning that the anger is already inside us. So when we get angry, in principle, we should turn inward to deal with my anger. But in reality, that's not the case, because not everyone has enough ability to do that or knows how. So some of us choose the solution, to run away from the anger temporarily. For example, we find something to do or we find someone to talk to, confide in to relieve it, or we do something we love, like listening to music or playing a sport. Does this escape solution completely resolve our anger? Because in my experience, some people do those things, spend a little time, and when they come back, they're not angry anymore. In the song Cream of Alexander, there are 2 lines I especially like. That is, you can be happy on. The happy until you bring it home, BBN. You can't be happy when your heart is still wandering somewhere, looking for recognition, forgiveness, a blessing, respect, or admiration, reverence, praise. Then you can't be happy. You can be happy while your heart on the meaning it's still wandering somewhere. You can be happy until you bring it home. You can't be happy until you bring your heart back to yourself. In the song Bien and HLM by the musician Kupibio, he is so subtle and experienced when he writes that piece. A moment to soften the heart, just a moment of peace. It happens in the mind, just a few minutes, everyone. Our heart will soften. It's no longer tense. It's no longer mad. It no longer wants to punish the other person. It no longer wants to exclude the other person. Before that, our heart, it's being battered by storms. Emotions are overflowing, filling our hearts. It's stirring, it's rippling. So we think that maybe we can't live with this person. We have to pack our bags and leave. We have to break up. And we always have a tendency to want the other person to change, want the other person to be nicer, want the other person to be loyal again, want the other person to listen or respect us. Again, of course, if the other person can change, that's great. But in life, you probably already know that there are times when the other person can't change. The other person also is very exhausted. The other person also really wants to please us, also really wants to have a real change, but they're exhausted. They can't do anything more for us. So what's left is, can you change? You are the remaining part. You are one side. One side has not changed. Then can one side change? The question is, why do we have to change? We're not at fault. So why do we have to change? They're the ones at fault. The answer is because you're more stable than them. You're more steadfast than them. You're more awake than them. Then you have to try to expand the capacity of your heart a little bit more. Can you? Because in a relationship, we can't use but there must be kindness with each other. And this is the time you show the giving. Go more than take back of yourself. Show your kindness so you can expand your heart to 1.5 spans to contain an annoying name that is 1 span. Of course you want to. But what is the method? We'll talk about it later. Musician Kubiote said that if before our hearts expand, let's make our hearts are at peace first. And peace, as He Dao Lagsan said, is don't. Don't wander around outside. Don't wait or hope for anything out there. Come back to yourself. Love yourself. Connect with yourself. Find every way to lift your heart. First of all, how to Don't think about that story anymore. Don't think about what happened in the past. Most of us suffer because we always remember the past, remember how that person treated us unkindly. But in this present moment, there's little that causes us suffering. In this present moment. Maybe someone is repenting a lot, but we can't accept the present because we're not used to living in the present. So we're always thinking about the past, and the more we remember not the past, the more uneasy our hearts become. Kwok Bao, find peace for a moment, let your heart soften. Peace. Oh, enter the night. Peace lets flowers bloom. Peace lets the moon rise high. When our hearts are at peace, we see a flower blooming. But when our hearts are not at peace, even if flowers bloom, we don't see them. When our hearts are at peace, the flowers in our hearts also bloom. That's freshness, that's life. And when we are at peace, we see the moon high above. But when we are not at peace, the moon high above, we also don't see it. But Kwok Bao speaks of a deeper meaning. That is, when our hearts are at peace, enlightenment and wisdom emerge. The moon represents wisdom and peace to live. Cherish the shore. Peace, don't. That means try to make yourself peaceful first. It's very miraculous. It's so miraculous that it seems unacceptable. But when you come back and make your heart peaceful, acceptance happens easily. There's another idea in this song piece that I especially like. As vast as we are born into another life, when you are at peace, it's like you are reborn. This sentence reminds me of a passage in the Bible. One day, Nicodemus, a very devout Jewish man, admired Jesus and longed to meet him once to fulfill his wish. And if he met Jesus, he would ask a question that he had been pondering for a long time. And by chance, Jesus was passing through that village. So at midnight, he secretly disguised himself to meet Jesus so others wouldn't find out. When he met Jesus, he knelt down and said, "Lord, I have longed to meet you, and I want to ask you a question. How can I be born into the kingdom of God?" Then Jesus grabbed him and pushed his head into the water and said, "This is the kingdom of God. Only when you die will you be born." Nicodemus, I was very scared and panicked. Then Jesus calmly replied, "When an old idea dies, giving way to a new idea, that is the kingdom of God. If you can bury old thoughts, old prejudices, old biases, and you accept the new person with your new eyes, then you will be born into the world of freedom, a liberation, peace, and happiness." So somehow bury the anger, the sorrows, the stubbornness, the mistakes within you, then you will find this life worth living and infinitely lovable. As vast as we are born into another life, as we grow up together, becoming wise together. This sentence is so great because Wat Bio said, we are strong and firm now because we have made each other suffer. Do you agree? As we grow up together, becoming wise together means giving each other sweetness and also bitterness. Thanks to that, we mature and we know what happiness is. Only after experiencing suffering do we know what happiness is. So, I'll probably ask someone to sing the song, not less. Peace for you to listen to again, to deeply understand the value of peace and tranquility. To live, cherish the shore. We are not at peace. We think the shore only has the responsibility to keep the river alive and existing. But when we are at a peace, we want to bring silt to nourish the shore. Cherish the shore naturally. Peace makes us so lovely. And congratulations, you know how to love. Come here to warm. Oh, congratulations, you know how to pity love. The person who stays, if they have peace, open their heart. Oh, to welcome the other person back. And the person who leaves, if they have peace, they want to return because they know how to appreciate love. So one of the reasons we often get angry with each other, and throw garbage at each other may be because we lack to be at peace. Of course, we need to live, have careers, and develop economically. But we also have a responsibility to care for our souls, because no matter how successful we become, if we fall apart in our emotional connections, if our loved ones aren't happy, then that success isn't enough to make us completely happy. So, to find peace, I guess we should ask the Celestial monk, how do we find peace? I find this song very interesting. Like the first line, a peace to live energetically. If anger is like a wave, then living in peace is like the shore. But if life constantly crashes without end, even the shore can't handle it. So, for the shore to be able to withstand the waves, the SP often shares that we need the power of mindfulness. We need to build our mindfulness. So, yes, what exactly is this power of mindfulness? It's still quite vague for us to understand clearly. Do you often get general checkups for your body? Many people don't dare to go. They're afraid of discovering they have a disease. It's easier to just imagine they're healthy. We have centers and hospitals that can take blood or other samples from our bodies for testing, so we know the state of our health. If only we also had a machine, a center that could measure what's happening in our souls. An EKG won't work, it only measures heart rate. Here, we're talking about the soul, so you can know the state of your consciousness. A solo meter. Well, because I've been working in psychotherapy for over 10 years, and I've helped many patients who are successful, people with a lot of power in society, even global power, but deep down they have loneliness, fear, sadness, and anger. And when they break down, when crises occur, they suddenly realize they've neglected their souls for too long. Some are even depressed. They're always living with negative energy, always worried and afraid. They see everything in a dark light. Such people are easily angered, easily saddened, and easily see life with pessimistic eyes. when people come together, they rarely consider each other's emotional state. They only look at each other's wealth, talent, or career. At most, they care about the other person's personality. But deep down in their souls, everyone has emotional wounds. I often joke that everyone carries a trash can, 2 trash cans overflowing. 2 people with psychological issues come together. 2 people with countless worries come together. What do you think will happen? If one side is full of trash and the other side is an empty can or a can with little trash, then one side can help the other. But if both are experts at producing trash, and every day we unintentionally throw trash at each other, that's a very common thing. Why? Because we lack a very important ability that's available to everyone, mindfulness. You can understand mindfulness as the ability to be aware and recognize what is happening around you and in your soul. In English, it's called awareness. That is, we're always aware of what we're doing. For example, when you're walking, you should know you're walking. That's called walking mindfully. But when you're walking, you let thoughts and worries overwhelm your mind. Even when you're walking down the stairs, you don't realize you're walking down the stairs. You might even bump into someone without noticing. Going into the elevator, standing with many colleagues or acquaintances, you don't even realize they're there. Being present means we're living in a state of not knowing, meaning we're not fully connected to reality, because when you're 100% present, you know what you're looking at. You must know what you're looking at, know what you're hearing, and your other senses must be keenly aware to connect with life. Only when you can hear and see, smell, taste, and feel are you truly alive, a vibrant being present and connected to the world. But if you eat and you don't know what you're eating, speak without knowing what you're saying, or act without knowing what you're doing, it means you're living in a state of unconsciousness, losing the ability to perceive. Why do we lose it? Because our minds are submerged in an object, either remembering the past or imagining things that will happen in the future. Our minds are always worrying, thinking, imagining, and predicting what will happen, rarely being fully present in the present moment. When you pick up a cup of coffee, you don't realize you're lifting a cup of coffee. That coffee could spill on you. When you drink your favorite cup of coffee, but you're not present to enjoy it, it's like drinking leaf water. You're just pouring a liquid into your body, not actually drinking coffee. And if this habit spreads into your life, into every action, then you're not a vibrant being, and whatever you do doesn't carry your signature. You're not responsible for your products. You just slammed the door, you just spilled the glass of water, you left your sandals scattered everywhere. You just made that statement, you just did that series of events, you just made that declaration. You are the one responsible. responsible for that work. Every action, every gesture of yours must carry your signature. You must be responsible for it because it's your product, yours. Look back and see. If you don't live consciously, then the products you create, even if just words or actions, are also products of unconsciousness, lacking quality, not meeting your expectations. And it seems like you're realizing this. You know that your qualities, the quality of your life, are declining every day, becoming more tired, more stressed, less happy, and you also realize the quality of your work is declining every day with less passion, less dedication, less enthusiasm, or less wholeheartedness than before. You're aware there's something wrong, something amiss within you, but you haven't realized it yet. So I can tell you that you're being drawn into external objects. You're being drawn into your worries and fears. You're gradually losing control of yourself. So the best way to restore the best values you once had is to re-establish the ability to be conscious. How? Min asks. Yes, I thank you, Master. From what I understand, the power of consciousness is like a state of awareness, a deep state of awareness of our inner and outer selves. So, going back to the lyrics of the song, Peace. Just now, if life is a wave, then the sea is very turbulent. Sometimes it's very turbulent, and the shore is peace. And peace requires a power of consciousness. So, for the shore to withstand the waves, it needs a very great strength. So, that strength comes from the power of consciousness. Master, can you explain to us more about the concept related to the strength of the power of consciousness? You know, Rabindranath was a famous Indian poet who contributed greatly to the Indian independence movement and was a contemporary of Albert Einstein, the world's outstanding physicist. He traveled to many places to connect the essence of Eastern and Western cultures and witnessed many beautiful scenes and wonders around the world. But in the end, Rabindranath Tagore exclaimed in his poem that having spent years traveling everywhere, crossing many high mountains and wide rivers, why didn't I see right in front of my house the dewdrops sparkling on the branch? One peaceful morning, Rabin stepped out of his house and suddenly felt moved, choked up, and on the verge of tears, feeling an extraordinary sense of peace, seeing the incredible beauty of the earth and sky, especially a dewdrop heavy on the branch, glistening in the sunlight. Of course, at that moment, Rabin felt a deep peace, wanting nothing more, seeking nothing, and completely at peace. That's when we can perceive the miraculous reality surrounding us. When your mind is sufficiently at peace, you'll see everything around you is valuable and miraculous, and you'll start to consciously cherish and protect it. That's the power of awakening. When you're 100% present, you begin to see the value of the happiness you already have. Without presence or awakening, you might see it, but you won't feel anything or recognize its value. That's the first power. It allows you to see the value in everything around you. The second thing is, when you're fully present and awake, you first have complete presence to clearly recognize what's around you and what's happening within you. When you're awake, negative energy can't rise up or overflow. It only spreads and floods your soul when you're not present with yourself, when your mind wanders, when you're worried or afraid, when you're lost in something. As musician Tren Kong San said, we often play a game of hiding in the souls of others to live, always waiting and hoping for them to do something for us, but we haven't returned to our true home for refuge. Therefore, our souls are often adrift and lost. But when we return home, even if it's dilapidated, and we still have unpleasant habits, if we accept being in that house for a while, suddenly our hearts begin to feel warm and peaceful. When you find or create a state of peace and comfort for yourself, you'll demand less from others, wait less, and hope less from others, and your ability to accept things will greatly increase. The power of awakening can invite positive energy into you. For example, when you pour and drink water, you might suddenly feel grateful for it. You might not know why the water is so readily available to you. Just turn on the tap and it's there. Awakening allows you to look deeply and see the connection between you and the object, which is represented by gratitude. And when you look at your loved one with awareness, you see how much they've done for you, how much effort they've made, and how many good qualities they have. But if you're not present and lack awareness, you'll only see their flaws. When we're depleted and our inner strength is weak, we tend to look at others with expectations, hoping and demanding, rather than wanting to contribute and share. So, the greatest power of awakening is that it constantly urges you to do something for others. Just as the shore cherishes the waves are responsible for cherishing the shore. So the question remains, how do we develop the power of awakening? Earlier, as we began this Dharma talk, I invited you to meditate for 10 minutes. Try not to think about plans or projects. Set everything aside and reconnect with your body by feeling each part of your body, your eyes, your smiling lips, your relaxing shoulders, and your feet resting on the floor. Follow your breath as it goes in and out, the rising and falling of your abdomen. These are some practical methods called meditation to help us reconnect with ourselves, bring our mind back to our body, making us truly present and aware of our condition first. If you practice more consistently, you'll begin to develop your awareness. At some point, through regular and continuous meditation, you'll begin to see your anger as it starts to rise. You'll immediately recognize it. With the power of awakening, you begin to observe the anger, whereas before, without awakening, meditation or a calm mind, you would look, anger can consume you if you let it. The more you dwell on it, the worse it gets. So, before you focus on the anger, practice meditation, walking meditation, and other techniques to calm your mind. Then, when you face your anger, you can embrace it. It's like when a baby cries. A mother, no matter if she's cooking or sewing or doing something important, will drop everything to go into the room and pick up the baby. When the baby is held, it cries less, but it's still crying because it's uncomfortable. So the mother looks closely to see why the baby is crying. Maybe the diaper is too tight, ants are biting, or it's hungry. Then the mother knows how to soothe the baby. Our anger is like that baby. We all have a vulnerable inner child that's easily saddened, cries easily, and gets hurt easily. We don't know how to care for it, so it cries more and more, getting upset and angry over the smallest things. So when that inner child cries, no matter how busy we are, even if we're in a meeting or dealing with important issues, we need to take at least a minute to turn inward, to practice looking in. I spoke with the CEO of Dam Kamau, and he mentioned reading Search Inside Yourself. It's a book by a well-known Google employee. Search inside yourself. Look within yourself instead of always searching the internet. Of course, Google is useful, but why don't you look inside yourself? Something's happening inside you. You're angry. Are you aware of it? If you're not aware, it will destroy you and your relationships. You're doubting your colleagues. You're afraid of someone. Do you see it? Stop searching outside yourself and turn inward. Google is a world-renowned corporation, and most of its employees have started meditating. Even for hours a day or several days a week, to bring their minds back to a balanced state. We might be living in an unbalanced state. Balance means looking both outward and inward, solving problems, while also taking care of our emotions and our spiritual well-being. If we neglect our inner selves for too long, we need to retreat for a few days to nurture our souls. When a tiger gets injured, it retreats to its den to heal its wounds. It licks its wounds daily, even going for 2 or 3 weeks without food, staying in its den, not hunting, to focus on the wound, sending love and care to it. The combination of the tiger's saliva and its loving care helps the wound heal. Remember, the key is that it can't leave the den to hunt, because it would die, either from exhaustion or from predators waiting outside. Even if it caught a small animal like a rabbit or deer, it would still die because it's too exhausted to digest the food and heal the wound. Do we have wounds? Do we often get angry, jealous, or resentful towards others? Do we often blame, accuse, feel depressed, or see life pessimistically? Let's get a checkup. Let's find a counselor, a therapist, or a spiritual teacher to see if we have any underlying issues. Why do we get so angry, especially with the people we love? That's terrible. We often dump our emotional baggage on loved ones. We need to understand what's wrong, and the way to find the problem is through meditation. Turn inward often to recognize what's happening. Of course, you might ask, how can I find the time to turn inward when I have so much to do and so many responsibilities? Right? Do you have 1 minute? Yes. Even going to the bathroom takes a few minutes. Chatting takes half an hour. Online chatting takes hours. Lying around watching YouTube videos, the game show takes hours. So why not take a few minutes to look inside yourself? That's the search inside part. Divide yourself into 2 groups. The first group should dedicate time specifically to look inward. For example, spend half an hour each day meditating to turn inward. I'll elaborate on the methods this afternoon. The second group is about taking advantage of every opportunity to turn inward. For example, when you're listening to me, you don't always have to focus on me. Remember to relax and relax, feel your face, feel the slight tension in your lips, feel your shoulders relaxing, and feel your breath going in and out. Don't get too caught up in the story I'm sharing with you. Sometimes return to yourself and sometimes focus outward. If you're skilled enough to that extent, using every opportunity to reconnect with yourself, the chance to turn inward and develop inner strength will be very high. You know, in Western society, they're craving something called inner power, inner strength. They don't crave regular power anymore. Regular power is yelling, banging tables, making people fear you, intimidating everyone with your abilities. That's old news, no longer appealing. Westerners now crave the power that comes from within, meaning you have the ability to control your emotions, restrain your anger, and subdue the negative energies and garbage within you, so your soul is always ready to receive the conditions for happiness that you have. That's called inner power. Do you want it? Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to hear the monk share about the miraculous power of mindfulness. Because if we can't do this, we might, as the monk said, get angry with our loved ones or unintentionally throw our garbage at them. Like my siblings and I often say, I'm afraid of traffic jams on the road, but I'm most afraid of my wife being silent or angry. So why do we tend to get angry with our loved ones so easily, as the monk mentioned? Let's consider this as the final exchange of our discussion. Then we'll invite questions from the audience. Do you agree that we often get angrier with our loved ones than with strangers? Do you agree? Raise your hand. Why is it that the people who are kind to us share our joys and sorrows, commit their entire lives to us, leaving behind their parents, siblings, relatives to follow us, living and dying with us, are the ones we often, because the most suffering. In my work as a counselor, I've observed the following first, because we think that person will never leave us, never retaliate against us strangers. If you mess with them, might fight back fiercely. But with family, we're not conscious of controlling our emotions. We underestimate them. Next, we actually do get angry with strangers, but we don't dare to lash out because it would be harmful. We try to present ourselves as noble, tolerant, someone who doesn't care about such things. We act so well that people think we're not angry, and sometimes we even convince ourselves that we're not. We act so well that we start living the role until we come home and can't take it anymore, can't act anymore. There's no one to perform for at home. People at home know everything about us, so we're real. And being real reveals our bad habits and negative energies. And perhaps the people at home don't know how to perform either. They're also being real, so they criticize and nitpick our weaknesses. They don't know how to say sweet words, those flattering words that we crave. So we prefer going to work than staying home. At the office, people glance at us, admire us, praise us, because that's when we're performing, wearing nice clothes, putting on perfume. That's why we prefer going to work, not necessarily because we're passionate about our jobs. When we come home, we're only criticized. And the problem is that the things we do at home, I don't know how to cook, clean, or play with the kids. I don't know how to fix plumbing or electrical issues. I don't know anything, because I'm the CEO, Kimba. Sorry, he is something like that. I'm a manager, a general manager, so that's right. Everyone slips up sometimes, because I do something very big, very important. So we spend our whole lives honing those skills. We don't have husband skills, we don't have wife skills, and certainly no father or mother skills. So when we come home, we tend to reveal our weaknesses and shortcomings to be laughed at, criticized, blamed, and exposed, so we get bored at home. We can't shine at home, only at the office. So opening up to family means already having a mindset of being ready to fight. We're always being demanded of, always being blamed, always being nitpicked, always having our weaknesses pointed out. So the ability to self-defense is very high in the place that should be the most comfortable, peaceful, and loving. Right? So I think we'll move on to the second part, which is the assigned listening, sharing feelings or questions from you. Please, do you find the monk's answers interesting? A round of applause, everyone. So please continue to ask questions. We have a little time left. Please ask your questions, and the monk will answer them for you. If anyone would like to ask a question, please raise your hand so the staff can bring you a microphone. Please prove the saying that the people of Ka Ma are incredibly lovely by raising your hands immediately. Please, young man. I've been listening to you, teacher, and what you've been sharing is very interesting. I really like Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Anger. Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Anger, was actually written after the US bombing in 2001. There's this idea that this anger is sometimes because we absorb it. There are two ways to absorb it. One is through what we eat, for example, industrial food, chickens, cooped up in cages. So many of them, they're frustrated. We eat that and we catch their resentment. and the second is through the senses. I don't know about Western society, but in Vietnamese society, when we turn on the TV, the internet, Facebook, it's all very violent, and even sometimes we're nurturing our souls, but when we go outside, we're outside in a little, we're immediately overwhelmed by those things. So how can we live in the present, maintain living in the present, live mindfully, and live live as you've been sharing, teacher. Thank you, teacher. Thank you. Thank you for your question. When I went to volunteer in a community in Alaska, I was very impressed to see written on the wall the phrase, "We are what we eat. We are what we put into our bodies to nourish ourselves." They wanted to remind themselves to carefully consider what we put into our bodies, and that everything we put in affects all the activities of our mind and body. We must choose wholesome foods that nourish and heal, not just for pleasure that then destroys our bodies. The body and mind are a unified whole, so whatever happens to the body also happens to the mind. There are many studies from England and the US that show that if we consume food from animals that are aggressive, it can water the seeds of aggression within us, not less. In the US, there are industrial chickens, probably like in Vietnam and some other countries. People have to keep the chickens in cages, thousands of them, very cramped. So the chickens are uncomfortable and annoyed, so they peck at each other. So they have to cut off their beaks, and they're very angry. So when they lay eggs, the eggs also carry that angry energy. In the US, they're classified as cheap eggs, while the expensive eggs are called organic eggs, eggs from chickens that frolic in the garden. They're free, relaxed, peaceful and happy, so they produce an egg that's very full of good energy. So it depends on each person's awareness, but if you're sensitive to taking care of the quality of your life, then you should pay attention to the food aspect, as this young man suggested. Besides that, we have another type of food called emotions in the rural areas of America. People consider TV a poison, so they don't watch TV, or they only watch a few programs that are considered the most beneficial. And they strongly forbid children from accessing TV. There are communities that don't even know what TV is. Children grow up never having heard the word TV or seen what a TV looks like, because why? Because those parents want to protect their children's souls. They say that when children watch TV, greed immediately arises from the commercials, or violent tendencies emerge. It happens as soon as they watch action movies with violence, killing, or hatred. So, psychotherapists also remind us to be extremely careful in consuming food through our eyes, hands, and other senses. This deeply affects our souls. What's the solution? If you practice meditation, if you practice developing mindfulness, when I guide meditation, I often suggest that young people practice these first 3 questions. The first question is, what am I doing here? What am I doing now? What am I doing? And I must know what I am doing. That is, it reminds us to remember that if we are talking, then focus 100% on talking. If we are cleaning the house, then focus 100% on cleaning. If we are eating, then focus 100% on eating. Be one with it and be very aware of the process that is happening. The second question is, what is the object we are interacting with like? Or how does it interact with us? How does it affect us? That is the second question. And the third question is, what is our attitude towards that object, towards that work? That is, you establish a mechanism already present in your mind that is always aware of your attitude, reacting to the surrounding objects, and always aware of the impact of the object that is affecting you. That is called a mindful way of life. If you always live mindfully, then protecting your soul in the purest way possible, in the most peaceful way possible, is something that can happen. Thank you, sir. Very interesting. So we choose our food, emotions, and live mindfully. I'd like to invite other questions from everyone. Please go ahead. Hello, teacher. Yes. Listening to your sharing since this morning, I find it very helpful for all of us here and for what we will manage or do later for a group or a company is also very helpful. Thank you, teacher. I would like to ask you this usually while working in a business. Often our staff and employees often have disagreements and conflicts with each other. As a leader, how can we minimize that? Because if during work there are conflicts and disagreements, it will definitely affect our work and affect the work. It will definitely cause damage to the company. So, how can we minimize that for the staff so that employees are harmonious and not angry at work? Please answer my question. Thank you for your question. And I think many other leaders would also like to ask this question. I think we should establish a mediation program. And this program should be used every week within a group of people. Like a family, it's already needed. In fact, two people working and living together will inevitably have problems with each other. So it's already needed, let alone a large business with many people from different cultural traditions, customs, habits, and different perceptions. The mediation program in our book, Understanding the Heart, is called Making New, and it works like this. Suppose A and B have a problem with each other, then A and B will choose a time to sit down together. If A and B refuse to sit down, then we need CC, is someone that A and B both trust and respect. So C will invite A and B to sit down. C must not take sides. C must be the person who helps the two sides reconcile. Either A proactively wants to reconcile with B, or B wants to proactively reconcile with A. Then A or B writes a letter or writes a card saying, "I would like to have tea with you. Are you willing?" If that meeting is set up to sit down, then that's great. The only difficulty is probably in the step of inviting each other to sit down. Somehow we invite each other to sit down. This making new exercise has a total of, there are 4 steps. The first step is, let's say I'm A and Min is B. I have a lot of frustrations about B that I can't express because maybe B is higher ranking than me, more talented, more capable, not less. Or B has a habit of not wanting to listen to anyone, and especially doesn't want to listen to me. So today I want to sit down so B can listen to me. If B sits down, then my first step is what we call watering flowers, which means I have to let B know how valuable they are in my eyes. Mention their talents, their strengths, and even the favors that B has done for me. When I say that, B will feel more comfortable. And importantly, B will see that A isn't making them sit down to condemn them, to accuse or attack, but this is a genuine reconciliation. B will continue to sit because B knows that A is sincere about wanting to reconcile, and in A's eyes they are respected, not looked down upon. This is done through praising or highlighting or letting the other person know their good qualities. You can apply this in your married life, in your family life. This watering flowers step must be done very carefully. You must speak with all your heart. B is very smart and sensitive. If you're superficial or just going through the motions, B will know immediately. B will know that this is just a formality. But if you speak from the heart and genuinely acknowledge B's strengths, B will know it right away. And when you say it, you yourself will remember that B isn't just a person with flaws and bad points, but also has those values. You start to remember, and B also starts to remember. B also knows they have many strengths that they've long forgotten. Step 2, before addressing the issue, step 2 is to acknowledge your own mistakes, limitations, and weaknesses to B. Say that in the past. Maybe because you were too focused on work, there were times when you couldn't control your emotions. I said some things that upset you. I apologize for that. And even on that day, at that time, I did such and such an action. I apologize to you. That's step 2. Psychologically, when you want to give someone feedback and you directly point out their flaws, they'll never be able to listen unless they are someone with inner strength, unless they are someone who is very happy. Then they might be able to listen to your unpleasant feedback, even if in that feedback there's a lot of energy of attack, insult, and belittlement. So for others to be able to listen to your feedback, you must wisely give them a comfortable feeling first, which is a compliment, an acknowledgement, a respect from the bottom of your heart. And step 2 is that you admit your weaknesses, which adds another layer of empathy, meaning that you make the other person understand that they're not the only ones with flaws. But the person giving feedback also has flaws. So they're more likely to open up and accept it. Step 3 is the step you need, which is to express your feelings, your innermost thoughts, your perspective. But remember, this is just your perspective, not necessarily the truth. You need to consult with B and compare notes with B. Then you should just say, B, on that day, at that time, you did such and such an action. Please explain why you did that. Or, I've noticed that your attitude towards work is indifferent and careless, or disrespectful to your colleagues. I don't know if that's accurate, but I'd like you to explain. Then the other person will feel very relaxed. We're putting a very heavy issue down in a light way. Then the other person will be able to accept it. And step 4 is when A has to sit silently and listen to B explain. If B feels angry or offended by the feedback, B shouldn't speak. B should say, I'm not feeling well today. I feel emotional. Give me another appointment. I'll go home and reflect on what you said. And in a day or 3, I'll have an answer for you. But if B feels well, feels stable, and has an explanation, then B will tell A. But often the problem isn't resolved or doesn't go anywhere. But the beauty of this reconciliation method is that both sides are willing to sit down together. Both sides have started to tell each other what they understand about each other. That is, we really want to know what the other person understands about us, how they feel about us. That's also a way we're on the path to reconciliation, finding out who's right and wrong sometimes isn't important anymore. What's important is that we've sat down together, and you can use this refreshing method for a group of people, a team of 10 people, or a dozen or so people. Don't have too many, because 100 people won't have enough time. We only in such a refreshing session, for example, between A and B, only one side should be refreshed. If B wants to refresh A, please wait for another day, because if B refreshes A, B might want to counterattack. You think you're so great. Listen to me, then everything will fall apart. So only one side gets refreshed, and if the two sides don't have enough wisdom to sit down together, you definitely need someone above, someone in charge, an older brother figure, someone with love and the trust of both sides to sit down together. Then that reconciliation session will be successful. You know, sometimes we don't go to the point of fighting or hurting each other, but there are things we're not happy about, but it's not convenient to say them because saying them would make us seem petty and selfish. So we keep it inside. Keeping it inside means it will create distance, caution, and will create suspicion towards the other party, and cooperation cannot happen. So is it good? If it's every day is a bit too much. If every day is still a bit too much, then every 7 days, every week, we have a refreshing program, sitting down to clear out all the garbage in each other's hearts so that we can step into Monday, the beginning of the week, looking at each other as good friends. Then cooperation will happen very easily, and every day we go into the office looking at each other and smiling. That nurtures energy for each other a lot. You think like that. It's great, right? For everyone, I sincerely thank you, teacher. It's very helpful in my life as well as everyone's here, right? And we need to build a culture of refreshing for our business because we will reduce conflicts between staff members. Please invite you to ask more questions. Please raise your hand on the left. Please pass the microphone. Yes, thank you, Master Nhat Hanh, for sharing this topic today. After listening to the Master's sharing and looking back, it's true that my own trash can is relatively quite large. Big hands. Yes, yes. The Master said that our anger is accumulated from over time. So I want to ask the Master regarding children, small, like now. We want children to grow up with the lowest, smallest amount of anger from the very beginning. What should we do? Thank you, Master. First of all, Sir Mister Ho, please stand up so the Master can see you. Then the Master can talk. First of all, parents must be less angry, and whenever parents are angry, parents have a solution. You should go learn meditation so that whenever you are angry, you should each go meditate in the evening and commit to each other that after we're no longer angry, we will explain and solve the problem. Now we're angry, so let's not say anything. You go meditate. You go meditate. The child witnesses that beautiful image very clearly, and it's recorded very deeply in their mind. And when they get angry, you invite them to go meditate. At first, they won't go. You hold their hand and go meditate with them. We only meditate for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. We don't think about the story, the dissatisfaction that happened. We only return to our breath, return to our body. Some children are too small. We can have them lie down and meditate, put their hands on their stomach to feel their stomach rising and falling. If the whole family practices together, then the child will start to develop the habit that every time they get angry, they go meditate. So meditating is one of the ways to help the child cope with and handle their anger best. But before we do that, before we can resolve the anger with the power of mindfulness, then everyday parents also live in mindfulness, slow down a bit, relax a bit, and feel what's happening around them. And also guide the child to live peacefully, like themselves, live slower, live knowing how to feel, knowing how to open their senses to connect with reality and be aware of what they're doing, and what they're doing will lead to what consequences. In general, we establish a mindful life in the family. Everyone knows what they're doing, what they're saying, controlling their emotions very well. Then if they accidentally get angry, they have the skills to turn inward to control the anger. But if before that we don't have any practice at all, we don't have the habit of turning inward, so when being angry won't help, if we get angry, we'll just fall back on old habits, blaming others and seeking someone to retaliate against. So, to help a child learn to manage their anger, There's nothing better than helping them practice controlling themselves through meditation methods that develop mindful energy. Thank you, Esteem. May I ask one last question? It's now 1100. Yes, a few more questions are fine, everyone. Was there a lady over here who raised her hand earlier? Do you still have a question? Over here. Yes, hello. Teacher, all methods or issues come back to practice. I want to know, for example, how to maintain a meditation practice and how to get guidance. Everyone knows meditation involves sitting and letting go, but letting go isn't easy. We're always distracted. For example, when meditating, something will trigger us and we start thinking maybe it's like our normal routine. If we don't eat vegetarian normally, we won't crave meat. But on the first day of being vegetarian, beginners often crave meat the most. It's like when we first start meditating. Are there any methods to help us focus and maintain it, to avoid those distractions? Thank you. The method, please stand up. I can see you better when you speak. The method is just that. The technique is just that. What matters is your effort and persistence. Those states of unfocused meditation are experienced by everyone who starts meditating. You can't have focus right away. If you do, it's very rare, and you won't reach that state again. Because when you meditate, you officially start looking at what's happening in your mind. Normally, you can't see it. Only when you sit still and turn inward do you see a mess of thoughts and worries. You can't just magically make them disappear so you can focus. You have to sit once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, and then the situation starts to change. At first, you can only focus for a few minutes. After 10 or 20 times, you can focus for 5 or 10 minutes. If you practice like that for a month, you might focus for 15 minutes. But that doesn't mean you'll improve every day. Suddenly, there'll be a time when you can't focus at all, even after practicing for several months. The reason is that after you stop meditating, you don't maintain balance in your life, or you're overwhelmed by pressures that you can't handle, or unexpected events happen. So that meditation session has no result. However, I still tell you that even without results, you should keep sitting, because by sitting down, you've already succeeded. You're overcoming your limitations of not wanting to stop, not wanting to face yourself, not wanting to turn inward. The result will gradually come with your effort and persistence. That's the first thing. Secondly, I want to say to you and everyone else that meditation isn't just sitting meditation. Practicing meditation isn't just sitting meditation, but also walking meditation, talking meditation, and working meditation. You can meditate while walking, talking, even cooking. You can meditate while cooking and working, because meditation is mindfulness. When you do something, you focus on the task at hand, you relax, you observe, you're aware of your attitude and reaction to the object. That's meditation. If you can apply meditation at all times and in all places in life, then when you sit down to meditate, your mind will focus very quickly because your life has been cleared and balanced and you've brought mindfulness into it. Then, when you sit down to meditate, you'll achieve great results. You might not even need to sit down to meditate anymore, because aren't you meditating all the time anyway? Do you understand what I'm saying? I wish you success. Thank you, Esten. We can always meditate. We meditate at all times and in all places, everyone. Next question. Did someone over here raise their hand earlier? Do you still have a question? Please, go ahead. Yes, Venerable Kwan Ngib, I'd like to ask one more thing. For example, because I know that, for example, in cases like when we first start meditating, it's like having a supportive chant or a supportive force. It's like we can support them by offering supportive energy, like reciting sutras or chanting to help them. A stronger resolve? I don't think you should, because the essence of meditation is that it awakens the inherent inner strength within yourself, and you shouldn't rely on any support unless you fall ill or have an accident. Only when you completely lose control of yourself should you rely on external factors. Meditation itself aims to have you return to awaken the best qualities within you without relying on external forces. I hope you understand and try to practice for better results. Now, respectfully, Master Kuan Dien, thank you, Master, for enlightening us this morning. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I want to ask the Master about things we're aware of, but still do. Why is that? Secondly, there are relationships we really want to mend, but why can't we, despite our efforts, there are things we want to do. Can I stand up? Thank you. There are things we want to do but can't, or things we know we shouldn't do, but we still do. That's because we lack something inner strength. LC Beti di Angitiem means we want to, but our strength doesn't allow it. So, if you want your strength to match your desires, you must turn inward and develop your inner strength before you want to solve that problem. If you've tried to solve it but can't, it's because you're in a state of insufficient energy. Your health isn't good, your heart is troubled, and there's a lot of fatigue and stress. If you try to solve problems in this state, you won't succeed. You need to temporarily hold off on solving them. Instead, retreat and recharge your energy. Somehow you can exercise, reconnect with nature, return to the peaceful countryside, return to your dearest loved ones, or practice meditation. In my opinion, meditation is the fastest method, not less, because meditation is about turning inward to the source of energy within you to awaken it. Once you've awakened it, your mind will have some peace, some balance, some relaxation and comfort. Then you'll see the problem very differently. Maybe before you found it very heavy, but now you're in a new state of mind, peaceful and steady. So you see the problem as nothing at all. And if you want to solve it, you'll find best way to solve it. But if you keep trying to solve it in a state of depleted energy, the more you try to solve it, the more confusing and complicated it becomes. That story might even overwhelm you. So temporarily, don't solve it. Don't try anymore. Don't try to solve it anymore, but try to turn inward to nurture your soul and regain your peace. If you ask how to do it immediately, if you want to learn meditation, you can contact me and I'll guide you on how to practice it. And I wish you success. Thank you, Master. And now, the next question from you, ladies and gentlemen. Please. Hello, Master. I've been listening to your sharing about emotions and people's anger. I have a question I'd like to ask you for guidance. I have a friend who is the head of a family and owns a business. But this guy is very stubborn. He believes that everything he says is authoritative, everything he says is right. He doesn't listen to anyone's contributions. He says, I've set the rules for worker and in the family, so everyone has to follow them. How can we contribute to that person so that he returns to a realistic life where he listens to and understands what people say? I'd like to ask the Master for advice. Is there a way for us to help this guy change? That's all. Wait. Hold the mic. Let me ask you a few questions. What's your relationship with him? Just friends, not old, just friends. If you're a close friend of his, you want to help, right? Are you too close enough? Yes, we're close. Then you two should organize a refresh using the refreshing method from earlier. You can directly address his habits, but he won't accept it. Instead, invite him to sit down as close friends and go through the 4 steps of refreshing, as I mentioned. Talk about his good qualities and strengths. After that, since you're just friends and there's no conflict between you, you can skip the 2nd step, which is talking about your own weaknesses, and go straight to the 3rd step, what you think of him. What do you think? If you see that friend, it's hard for him to listen to you. So you should write a poem, put it in writing. Writing it by hand is great. Or present it following the steps I mentioned. First, praise him, highlight his good qualities and strengths. Then, share your perspective on his limitations and hope he'll reconsider. Remember, you're only hoping he'll reflect and consider. We don't have the right to force him to change. Even better, have his wife and kids sit down and refresh him. Guide them carefully on how to do it without hurting him, so he'll listen. And if he still doesn't agree, have his wife or kids write him a poem, just like I suggested to you. Mention his strengths, his good deeds, his merits. Then the family can mention their limitations. The 3rd step is to talk about the suffering and pain the family is enduring. He might be distant, but he's subjective. Thinking his talents and contributions are enough to make the family happy. But reading a heartfelt letter might enlighten him. He'll see that he also has weaknesses and his negativity truly affects his loved ones. If all these efforts from you, his wife, and his children aren't successful, then it'll take a miracle. Some people are like that. Some people need to fail, collapse, or lose something before they cherish the happiness they have. They'll step out of the role they're playing so well, to look back at their life as a whole, to see what they're doing and how it affects their happiness and the happiness of their loved ones. Those who are failing, sick, or living in seclusion are able to observe their whole life, how their actions and words affect them and those around them. Most of us are identified with the roles we play, repeating our behaviors daily without giving ourselves a chance to reconsider. So, what do you want? Do you want him enlightened by heartfelt letters of friendship, or do you want him to be rescued by a miracle? Personally, I want him to wake up and come back so that everyone contributes. He makes a rule or says something that forces everyone to follow, but everyone says that what he's done is wrong, but he's very stubborn. For stubborn people like him, we've already failed to reason with him, so sitting down and talking it out directly is difficult. So I suggest writing a poem. It follows the same steps, but he won't be affected by the other person's emotions. He doesn't need to react defensively. He can revisit the poem many times. He might be angry at first. He's uncomfortable, but the second or third time he reads it, he might find it reasonable and realize he understands and tries to change.